anytime you hear Nezuko making a sound in the English dub, that is
Right.
me. All the growls and grunts and
First things first, I can't believe you do the theme song for Smash Bros. Ultimate. When I read that, I was like, that's so amazing. So just talk to me like what that process was like, maybe, and also just like what it's like being a part of that specific fandom, because obviously you're a part of a bunch of different games and anime shows, but like Smash Bros. And that song, it's so epic, it's so cool, like that's amazing, it's you. So what's that experience been like?
Yeah, so I am a Nintendo fan. So when I booked this job, I literally cried. I don't know if you've heard that story, but I didn't know what I was auditioning for when I did the audition. So initially, I submitted a vocal demo, just a general singing demo. And then I got a call back that was requested that I would sing the theme to Neon Genesis Evangelion, but like a few steps higher and closer to the key of the Smash theme. And that day, I was not feeling vocally super strong, and I was trying and trying to record it, and I just wasn't happy with what I was recording for the audition. And I emailed the studio and I said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't think I can send this audition. I'm not sounding great today. I'm so sorry, but thanks for the opportunity." And the owner of the studio, who is a friend, emailed me back and said, "Abby, just send it. Just send it." Because they knew how hard I can be on myself. So this is a lesson to all you kids out there. Take the risk, jump, take the leap. So I sent it in and I booked the job from that audition. So I found out what it was, the project, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and I lost my mind because I'm a huge Nintendo fan, as I said. And I got to record in the studio with some reps from Nintendo, kind of supervising. And Greg Chun, another extraordinarily talented voice actor, was the vocal director. So I was lucky I got to work with him. And we recorded the song. And yeah, it's been crazy to be a part of that world, just Nintendo in general. And one impact that this song has had that's meant so much to me is that I've had a fan come up to me several times in at conventions when I'm traveling doing conventions, and he has autism, and his mom told me that this song helped him come out of his shell a little bit and speak more. So it's just been like, it was such a cool moment to see what an impact something like that can have on people that you don't even think of. I'm just over here like, oh, it's so great to be part of Nintendo, and
Right.
then hear these stories and it really becomes more real and special.
I mean, such a massive game and like such an epic song too. Like I think everyone that's a fan of like the game, just Nintendo in general, like it's like loves that like amazing song. So that's really cool. That's a great story. I'm sure there's like a lot more stories like that. Speaking of like uber popular, Demon Slayer, I want to talk about it. You voiced Nezuko, and I had just kind of a couple questions. So Nezuko, not really known for a ton of speaking throughout all of Demon Slayer. So I was kind of wondering, like, as a voice actor, what that process is like, and like, take me behind the curtain a little bit. Do you just perform speaking lines, or do you perform other kinds of Nezuko like communication styles or noises and stuff like that?
Yeah, so anytime you hear Nezuko making a sound in the English dub, that is
Right.
me. All the growls and grunts and all of those little tidbits. One thing I do in the studio when I'm recording, when she has bamboo blocking her mouth, sometimes I'll put my finger here just to muffle the sound a little bit so it sounds, not super clear, but not too much because then you can't record your voice. But Nezuko is an interesting character because, yes, she does not speak a lot, but when she does speak, I think it's very important. It's very impactful and very meaningful whenever we hear Nezuko speak. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to kind of live up to those moments when we do hear Nezuko talk, because it's usually something that's very weighty.
Yeah, it's out of place, and it, like you said, it has that kind of impact. That's really cool. And like in just, taking behind the curtain a little bit, like I just said, you had your finger in front of your mouth, those kinds of things. Like, how is it from the written page to what you're talking about? Or are you like seeing the animation and then kind of like matching that?
Yeah, so when we dub, we get to see the picture. So the show is animated already. The Japanese is in there. So usually
Mhm.
we'll listen and watch a pass with the Japanese, and then I'll come in for the English pass. So I am inspired a lot by Akari Kito's performance in the original, in the Japanese, and also the animation. So sometimes I try to follow the animation as best I can, especially when it's an action a fight or an action scene. The animation can really help inform the performance.
In the dubbing process, like you're in Dandadan too, I want to talk about it a little bit later. Like in or any of these, roles you have in anime, is that how it always works, where you get to kind of like see and hear, the original language, like in Japanese, and then you go based on that?
Usually, and just because you can hear the Japanese performance, it doesn't necessarily mean that your performance is going to be based on that or trying to mimic that. But definitely, the original performance will inspire the English performance, especially because usually the Japanese performance is what inspired the animators to animate as they do. Sometimes I think it's animated before the voiceover goes in, but I think usually the Japanese is prelay and then animators work on it. But sometimes there's a rare situation where the animation is not finished yet, and we are dubbing to animatics or unfinished flaps. And in that case, a lot of the time we will rely on the timing of the Japanese audio if we have it. So, because one of the things about dubbing is you are trying to match the flaps, meaning the mouth movements of the characters on screen, and time it, so it looks as good as it can look and as natural as it can look. But every once in a while, we don't have that luxury, and we're flying by the seat of our pants a little bit.
Right. And so with Demon Slayer, huge, massive announcement recently came out where we're doing now for the Infinity Castle arc, three movies, which, of course, it's a big deal. At least I know personally, where like I kind of like to mix it up between sub and dub whenever I watch pretty much anime. But in theaters, it's important, to have options of like whichever one you want to do or whichever way you want to kind of bring in the take in the movie. So for the upcoming movies, have you already begun like doing any work for those, or like at least the first one maybe?
I don't know if I'm allowed to comment on the recording schedule for the
Oh, okay.
movie, but I do know that they announced that it's coming out this year. So I'm hoping it comes out sooner rather than later. I'm so excited to see it. I've heard, rumor has it, that the animation is absolutely insane, but that's not really a surprise because it's been pretty great all along.
You've
So
you've only heard the animation's insane.
I haven't seen a lot of the animation yet.
Yeah.
I'll
So I know they talked about how, yeah, like the first one's going to come out in 2025, but do we know if all three are 2025, or if they're going to try to kind of spread it out and make this huge, cinematic event? It's kind of like Mugen Train, which I saw in theaters. So that was like so cool seeing in theaters and obviously performed really well worldwide.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything. All I know is that they've announced three movies. So the Infinity Castle arc will be three movies, and that's what I've heard. They haven't committed to a release schedule for the second two movies. And again, the first movie they've committed to, I believe, saying this year, 2025 at some point. So hopefully that will narrow down in the
Yeah.
next, few weeks.
Right. Hopefully a release date soon. That'd be cool to kind of mark our calendars. Um, Over on to Dandadan, a kind of a new anime on the street, a new manga. It's not based on like too much of an ongoing series. You play Momo, and doing research for today's chat we're having, and just in general, like she's a bit of a beloved character, and I was kind of wondering like if you can just talk about that character, your performance going into that, and kind of like maybe even once again how you landed this gig as a newer anime that seems to be getting a lot of almost like surprise excitement. I was just wondering if you could talk about that process.
Yeah, so I hadn't heard of Dandadan. before I got this audition. And I received the audition with two scenes to perform and two scenes to watch. So I got clips of the Japanese performance. The first scene was the scene between Momo and Okarun in the hallway, where Momo and Okarun are butting heads a bit about aliens versus ghosts. That initial, and you really get a sense of their dynamic and how they have so much in common, but they're so different. And then the second scene was when Momo is walking through the abandoned building that allegedly is known for aliens being present. And she's telling Okarun a bit about her childhood where and her relationship with her grandmother. And in that scene, she really opens up to him emotionally. So I immediately fell in love with this character because she is so open. She's so dynamic. She's so relatable. It really takes me back to high school, and I can relate so hard to all of the emotions. And she's interesting because she has a different way, especially from me, of expressing those emotions. For example, she yells a lot, as we've seen in the show. And that's really fun for me as an actor because she is so dynamic, making all these quirky little facial expressions to be able to follow along with that animation and like really try to encapsulate that character. It's been such a fun time. I love Momo so much.
Yeah, and like I said, it's cool how many people have like discovered this anime, and it is something like new where I feel like there's some series that have just been going on for so long, people just get locked into those kind of like specific characters and stories. So it's kind of cool to have a new one. And season two is coming out. They said July of this year. Really exciting. Like anything to kind of talk about or maybe just tease about Momo and like the future, like how her character maybe evolves.
I can't tease anything that hasn't been animated. So
Oh, okay.
if people are interested, the manga is ahead of the anime. That's not to say that it's going to be like, perfectly aligned
Shot for
manga
shot. Yeah.
shot for shot. But I think if you're hungry for more Momo, definitely check out the manga.
Yeah, and I saw like, the manga, it's relatively new as well, and it's an ongoing series. So like, I mean, I guess it's kind of a silly question, but how long can you expect the series to go on? Because like we don't really know when the end is just in general, right?
That's true. Again, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's always refreshing to me when a story does have an end and doesn't like I think Demon Slayer is a good example where the manga has come to an end
Mhm.
and they didn't stretch it on for years and years and years to, filler episodes and whatnot. It's just the story is unfolding and then it will be told. So I'm hoping that for Dandadan, it's hard to say. I love these characters so much, so I want to see them as much as possible. And as long as there is a story to tell, I want it to be told. And I don't know what Yukinobu Tatsu has planned for the unfolding of the story, but hopefully it won't be, just extended for the sake of extending is my hope.
Right. Which sometimes we can maybe see. Shifting back gears over to gaming and video games. So you voice Magik in Marvel Rivals. Do you play? Have you seen just the absolute hit that Marvel Rivals is? Were you ever expecting that when you first signed on that job?
This is so funny. No, I did not expect. I had no idea the scale of this game. I was excited about it, and I love voicing Magik because she's really fun. She's got kind of a fun attitude. Also, doing accents, always fun for me. Um, I have not played the game yet, but I've seen gameplay. So I'm one of those people I don't play a lot of online games, mainly because it's dangerous, because I'll just become obsessed and there goes all my time. So I will watch YouTube videos or I'll check out streams uh, and kind of get a sense for the gameplay that way. And people are nuts over this game. And it's really exciting to see. It really caught me off guard.
It's a great game, and one of my best friends, he like mains Magic, and that was like so cool. When I was telling him like, "Oh, I'm gonna be talking to the person that voices her." That's so amazing. And on the game still, like, So speaking of other characters, there are Marvel Rivals has teased like just so much future characters being added to the game. Like, would you ever be interested in voicing a different character? Like you just mentioned, like for Magik, you're doing an accent, and you could do all kinds of voices potentially.
Potentially. Of course. Yeah, I would love to voice another character. Um, that as an actor like that, and especially in voiceover, that's one of the fun parts of voiceover is you can kind of get away with voicing multiple characters sometimes. So I'm definitely open to, any auditions that come my way. But it is
Spe
exciting to see them, yeah, like teasing so many characters. It's like, yeah.
I mean, the Fantastic Four, like Ultron's coming apparently. There's so many. I mean, it's like an
Yeah.
unbelievable amount of characters they're teasing. And it's great for that game because it's Marvel, and Marvel does have an unlimited, basically, amount to add in there.
Yes.
And ma Speaking of Magik, like, it's great that she's having this moment in Marvel Rivals. We haven't seen her in that much. She was in the New Mutants movie in live action. But she isn't in X-Men 97 yet. And I was kind of wondering, like, if you were ever asked if they liked your performance in Marvel Rivals, would you ever want to maybe voice her in X-Men 97 if they ever came knocking?
I think actually Magic has appeared in X-Men 97
Oh, really?
briefly as she was uh I'm blanking on the character's name now. Morph. Morph was shape-shifting. I think he may have shifted into magic as a bit of, I don't know if it's a teaser or if it was a one-off thing, but I think she may have been voiced by another actress who
Uh,
sounded great. Um, but I'm definitely open to, you know, any opportunities in the future to voice this character. She's super fun and yeah, we'll see what comes up.
yeah. Magic's awesome. One other game I want to talk about. So Smash Bros, Marvel Rivals. You're also in Multiverses. You voice Wonder Woman, which is, one of the Trinity. What a cool role to get. Unfortunately, though, Multiverses is shutting down. Kind of new news. And I was just wondering
Yeah.
if you've like heard about that, seen any of the fan reaction, maybe like your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I saw the news a couple days ago, I think it was, and it's a bummer for the people who are like really enjoying the game and playing. Um, yeah, it's I don't know if I think you can still play it offline.
You
They're gonna
can.
yeah, so at least that.
Yeah. And one other thing. So when it comes to video games versus like anime or any animated movie, for instance, like what's the difference when it goes into actually recording those lines? Because, I'm thinking of specifically like Magic and Marvel Rivals. It's like all these different quips, right? Like you're not really giving like stretches of dialogue. Whereas, as Momo, let's say, you might be, you might be sitting there actually like performing for minutes back and forth. So, what's like the difference for you as a performer going into those two different roles?
Yeah, sometimes with video games, we don't get a lot of context. Usually, I will just have the script and the director, and sometimes the team. The rivals team is usually in the room or on the Zoom, and they can inform us as to what's happening to kind of give the most context so that those quips land.
Right.
Um, yeah, and then for other projects like anime dubbing, there's definitely more context in that you have the animated picture in front of you, and a lot of like the Japanese voice can inform the performance, as I said earlier. So there's definitely video games can be a little more open-ended. So that can be it's good and hard at the same time because as a creative person, having more freedom is always exciting, right? But it can be more challenging in that we don't have as much to go off of. So we have to really make sure that the dialogue will fit in game when it does go in game. And you can always do what we call pickups, a session to grab some lines that maybe didn't work or they want to change. They'll do pickup sessions.
Have you ever done pickups after one of the games that you've been in has like post its release?
Actually, once, yes. Because a lot of online games now, there are regular updates and they
Hmm.
can change things. Um, it's a game that I cannot talk about as of yet, but yeah. It's
Oh,
happened before, and I think it's maybe rarer that you would change dialogue or re-record post-release. It's a rarer thing.
that's kind of what I was thinking, right? Like, but when you said that, I was like, wait a second. So could that mean? Because I mean, like you said, like with all the updates that happen now and so regular over and over, and they can be massive updates, I could see where, that could potentially fit in. One other project you had coming up was Secret Spy Academy. And I was just wondering, like, for our audience, you could like maybe talk about like what that series is about and maybe anything to like tease for its release.
Yeah, so that we're trying to develop a pilot. The creator Noah asked me to be in this pilot. Hopefully, it will get picked up into a series. It's a animated show about high schoolers, and uh, it's kind of in the name. They go to a high school, and it ends up being a spy academy, and they're training to be spies, and the insane shenanigans that then ensue from that. So hopefully it will get picked up and we'll be able to do some more episodes. But I know that they're working on the pilot right now.
Okay, cool. Have you found that in your own just like career and the projects that you're kind of drawn to or you're hired on, like do you kind of lean towards more like younger characters, or is that just kind of like what sometimes naturally happens, like based on your talents?
Yeah, interestingly, I think a lot of my characters are a little younger. It might just be the way I talk and the sound of my voice, but um, that I have played older characters as well. Um, but yeah, I guess maybe it's just my natural the sound of my voice maybe lends itself to younger characters. Question mark? I don't know.
Yeah, gotcha. So yeah, last thing, just anything else like do you have coming up, whether it be video game, anime that just like our audience can look out for?
Yeah, so I'm gonna reiterate, plug the Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Infinity Castle arc, uh, part one is coming out this year at some point. And Dandadan season two will be out in July. It was slated for July. And then I think there's a game called Date Everything. I'm voicing Shelly, and it was originally supposed to come out around now, around Valentine's Day, but they pushed the release date to later this year, um, I think in June. So look out for that game. Date Everything. It's a very funny concept where it's a romance game, so you're able to romance like random objects in the house. I voice Shelly the shelf, so you can romance my character, a shelf.